Here at Logic Before Faith, we use science, facts, and above all logic to determine truths about things we don't know about. This is part 3 and the final video of the series. If you haven't watched part 1 or part 2, I suggest you watching those first. Okay, let's pick up where we left off.
The theory I consider to be the best is the model that puts Antarctica as the landmass and ice wall around all of the oceans. How would I know what lies beyond the boundaries of what we know as Antarctica? I haven't been there.
This is a picture of the representation that the people in the Flat Earth Society believe is the true shape of Earth, with Antarctica being the white ring around the edge. Fran, you said you haven't been there, but other people have. Hundreds, if not thousands of people. Scientists from many different countries are actually there right now. Some of these countries hold opposing beliefs, different religions, different types of government from the country you live in. Yet, people in the Flat Earth community believe that every single one of these people are part of a conspiracy from NASA, ESA, and other space agencies to keep the people of the entire planet believing that Earth is actually a sphere. What in the hell would they gain from that?
Another great theory I heard is that the ice wall is melting because Earth is still coming out of the last ice age, and that there is lost land beyond Antarctica, lost lands such as possibly Atlantis. I think this is a sound idea, but I don't have anything to back it up.
I thought Flat Earth had an edge. Wouldn't there be a drop-off after Antarctica? Well, there's actually dry land under the ice in Antarctica, not beyond Antarctica like you said. Like you mentioned, you have nothing to back that up. Here's a picture of this topography that's mapped using years' worth of laser and ground-penetrating radar from both the air and space, as well as scientists on the ground using drilling methods. Many of the flat earthers use pictures of glaciers in the Antarctic to spread false information of an ice wall that is keeping everyone from going beyond the boundaries. We have these things called aircraft, but I hear many of them haven't come back because they actually fell off the Earth.
I'd like us to consider the blood that flows through our bodies. There is both rhythm and chaos within us. Each individual blood cell, whether flat or not, might never make the trip around our bodies the same way twice in our lifetime, if it even lasted that long.
Actually, on average, the red blood cells only last about 120 days.
The cell's ability to be random gives them the flexibility they need to be wherever they are needed, such as at the site of a wound. Here we see our frenemy, the funnel again, but this time it is used to hear a heart rhythm. I think our world is a bit like a living thing. It has a beginning, it has an end, it goes through changes, it has cycles, and so forth.
Okay, what does this have to do with the flat Earth again?
In our blood, the orientation of the cells is arbitrary as it flows along in the plasma. Does anybody else notice the soup-like arbitrary nature of the alleged universe? What do we make of the orientation of everything? I mean, is there an up and a down? Up and a down apply well to our earthly 3D life, but does it make sense for space?
Oh, Fran, there's no up or down in space. Look out into the universe, which you could actually do yourself. You don't need the internet or NASA. And you can see galaxies floating on edge, floating face on, and every angle in between.
The rings of Saturn remind me of the alleged flat solar system, but how in space-time is it not aligned with it?
Probably unlike you, Fran, I've personally had the opportunity to view Saturn through a 23-inch refractor telescope, which by the way is the 8th largest of its kind in the United States. And I can say Saturn's axis is tilted relative to the plane of its orbit, which is a 26.7 degree tilt. At a certain point in its orbit, seen in this video here, its tilt is relative to Earth is such that the rings appear head-on and seem to disappear. Galileo was the first to notice this phenomenon, which occurs every 14 to 15 Earth years. Also, here is a really neat picture. This is a view of Earth from Saturn, shot from the Cassini spacecraft. Many of the flat earthers claim that it's fake because if it was real, we would have more images of Earth from the outer solar system. Well, they're rare because from that distance, it's difficult to photograph Earth without photographing the sun, which can damage the camera's sensitive equipment.
Also, a side note in regards to gravity and rings, it seems science isn't sure why those rings have formed instead of just collecting with the sphere during the accretion process like everything else. But then they hold to their gravity belief, even though they cannot explain this.
Saturn isn't the only planet in our solar system that has rings, so it's kind of funny that you and others in the flat Earth community single out Saturn. In reality, all of the giant gas planets have them. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. However, these other ring systems are extremely thin and almost impossible to see. The scientific community doesn't know for sure how the rings were formed around Saturn, but that's okay. We learn by asking questions, providing evidence, and testing theories, and not making false claims based on nothing and refusing to be persuaded. One leading theory is that the rings are the remnants of one or several moons that once orbited Saturn. It is possible that a moon could have been torn apart by the combination of Saturn's gravity and influence from other moons, causing its debris to be scattered around the planet in a ring. These rings may also have formed, or at least added to, by passing comets and asteroids being pulled in by Saturn's enormous gravity, and in turn also being broken apart into many smaller fragments. But one thing I think the scientific community does agree on is that the rings haven't been there since the formation of accretion disks.
Okay, my beloved Earthlings who still love the globe. If you look at nothing else with scrutiny, please do so with this. There is no way this is possible. Enough said. Shouldn't this be case closed? If you buy the refraction of the atmosphere excuse, then there might be no saving you from the clutches of false theories.
How are you so sure that there's no way that this can happen? Where is your evidence? Well, here is mine that it can happen. Atmospheric refraction is the deviation of light from a straight line as it passes through the atmosphere due to variation in air density. This refraction is due to the velocity of light that slows in the air as atmospheric density increases. Atmospheric refraction sometimes can make distant objects appear to shimmer or ripple like seen here of the moon. Astronomical or celestial refraction causes astronomical objects to appear higher in the sky than they really are. Terrestrial refraction usually causes terrestrial objects to appear higher than they really are, just like when fishermen who use spears to strike under the fish they observe, because in reality the fish are lower. I've done this and it's hard to see where the fish actually is. Here's another example with a straw and a glass of water.
In my first video, I discussed the idea that the sun and moon are both closer to us and closer in size to each other than we are told, and that what we perceive as the sun or moon going down is actually them moving more distant to us.
I will clarify what she's talking about. Flat Earth conspiracy theorists claim that the sun and moon are roughly 32 miles in diameter and roughly 2,700 to 3,000 miles above flat Earth, and both, they claim, move in a circular fashion as seen pictured here.
Since this would logically require a change in size, and since internet images were not reliable, I decided to use my own images to determine if this was true. I took pictures of this amazing sunset back in August, and I just recently got around to analyzing them. I found that the sun did get smaller as it went down if I used the white outline, which should be the sun's edge.
You are assuming, and wrongly I might add, that you are capturing the correct diameter of the sun by the outline of the white, when in reality you can see no discernible edge until the sunlight has faded, like in the second picture.
So now let's take a closer look at the moon's size. In this case, I chose to take a look at the concept of perigees and epigees that are said to occur because of the elliptic orbit of the moon. I also chose daytime moons because I always find them more intriguing to start with. Here is a snapshot of the calendar for 2015 in regards to the moon size predictions. The ones highlighted in yellow are the closest ones to the actual dates I took my pictures. The one on the left is 1 day past maximum perigee, or largeness, and the one on the right is 4 days before maximum apogee, or smallness. The picture on the bottom is supposed to represent the size difference between the two maximums. Does that seem like an understatement to you, or is it just me? Remember too that mine are off of the maximums to boot. For those curious, these were taken above the mountains just west of the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado. The moon shifted to the right, or north, by some degrees during the 2-month period between pictures. And obviously there was also different atmospheric conditions that day.
Since you mentioned the different atmospheric conditions and failed to mention your camera settings along with other variables, I cannot comment on the sizes, but I can show you the importance of focal length and perspectives. The cabin appears closer with no change but focal length, as well as these cans of soup, so your pictures can be a little misleading without evidence.
I was trying to do some research in order to discover any truths about the moon's nature when I googled moon in different wavelengths and came up short. I wanted to share this because I found it suspicious. The sun has so many wavelength images that people make fun artistic patchworks with the images, but the moon has almost nothing. So much for that idea.
Just because Google doesn't return the results that you want doesn't mean that they aren't there, and doesn't mean that that should arouse suspicion. I spent 3 seconds longer than you and found a study on ultraviolet light reflectivity of the moon. There's probably less on Google because of the popularity. The sun's surface is very dynamic and changes continuously. The moon is static in comparison to the sun, and once you've seen different wavelengths of the moon, you've probably about seen them all. Let's move on.
Moving back to the moon size, I think this bit will show you a little bit how I process things. At least I hope. Now I know that by the numbers, by circumference, the moon is 1/4. But to say that it is 1/4 the size of Earth seems like a false statement to me. I'm going to have to remember this logic the next time I divvy out pizza slices. Maybe I will roll our slices into balls, then bust out a tape measure and show them the circumference of my slice versus their slice and say, see? 1/4, told ya.
If you take a 4-slice pizza and roll up a 1/4 slice for someone and a 1/4 slice for yourself, and then compare them like you say you want to, you're going to get roughly the same number, which is going to be 1, not a 1/4 like you mentioned.
Maybe I will roll our slices into balls, then bust out a tape measure and show them the circumference of my slice versus their slice and say, see? 1/4, told ya.
Size is misleading, yes. Like you mentioned, the diameter of the moon is roughly a 1/4, but based on volume and mass, the size is definitely not 1/4. So, yeah, it could be a wrong statement, but it would depend on the context. Based on sheer volume, you could fit 50 moons inside the Earth, if it were hollow, but, oh, I forgot it's flat. Just to help out with the visualization of all this, I found this short little video. Pretty neat.
I just guess I have a different understanding of what 1/4 of something is.
Yeah, you better check that pizza again.
I don't see how a planet so close to the sun and our moon could look so alike, because Mercury's density is supposed to be the second largest in the solar system, after Earth. Earth is number 1, of course. How is this iron planet not looking all melty on the top? But if the top is iron too, then why does our dusty, soft, not so dense moon look just like it?
Well, they look very similar because given the fact that the scientific community think that both the moon and Mercury have an iron core, and during formation when the moon and Mercury were molten, the iron sank, letting the lighter and more rocky material form the crust. Also, the moon and Mercury's atmosphere is basically non-existent, at least in comparison with the Earth's, leaving both of them very vulnerable to collisions with meteors as they do not have the thicker atmosphere like Earth's. Mercury's surface isn't all melty like you describe it because the mantle of Mercury is mostly made of basalt rock, which is a type of igneous rock, and igneous rock is solid up until about 600 degrees Celsius before it starts to change states of matter from the heat. And the side of Mercury that faces the sun, the hottest part of the surface, only gets to about 420 to 450 degrees Celsius on average. Did you even try to look this up?
This presentation is getting close to ending, but not before I pick on the United Nations just a bit. This is a personal issue for me because I was a past supporter of the UN, because of my heartfelt desire for world peace. And now I just feel like a betrayed, naive child. Do you care that you're lied to? Well, I do.
Of course I care about if I'm being lied to or not. That's why I question everything. So just a tip for you. If you care that you're being lied to, then question everything. Don't just question the facts of round Earth. Don't just question the ideas of flat Earth or dome Earth or invisible Earth. Question everything. Don't just blindly accept something because you see evidence you're ignorant on and completely disregard it. Why don't you try educating yourself on it? That completes video 3 and the final video of this series. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please comment, like, and subscribe. And again, thank you for watching.